Hello, and welcome to the Voices of Oregon podcast. This podcast is based in Portland, Oregon, and is made to learn about Oregon as a whole. I started this podcast for my 8th grade project in September of 2022. Just going through the process of recording and interviewing, not to mention the editing, I've learned so much. I hope you enjoy Voices of Oregon. State your names.
Roberta Jackson.
Deb Burgess.
How long have you lived in Oregon?
I think I've been here over 40 years. I've lived here most of my adult life.
Same.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I grew up in New Jersey, Delaware, and Hawaii.
What are the values you want most in community? And do you think that where you grew up affected those values?
Absolutely. I want inclusivity, everyone loving everyone for who they actually are and being open to everyone. And absolutely, that did, where I lived definitely had an impact on that, in the sense that when I was little, I lived in New Jersey, which was a diverse community. And then I lived in Delaware, which was not. And I actually was discriminated against because I was Jewish. And then I moved to Hawaii, where there were all kinds of people. And basically in that place, there were definitely racial differences, but everyone was like, if you talk to people, they wanted everyone to be an ohana, which is a family. And people were like that after, especially as you got older and older, you could see that happening more and more. And in that, I learned a lot about how we are all the same inside, even though we are very different on the outside.
And in Minneapolis, I went to an integrated high school. So I was used to being with all kinds of people. And my parents were very inclusive. They always were, there's always room for one more. My dad was always standing up for the underdog, so I kind of came from that background.
And when I was raising my children, it was really important to me that they understand that. And I have 5 kids, and we had a very quote unquote crowded table all the time with their friends and everyone. And that was a really important thing to me, and still is to this day, in girl choir especially.
Do you think that Oregon meets most of the values that you have in community?
I think Oregon has a way to go to understand what diversity really looks like, and especially inclusiveness with diversity. I think some people think that it is more, I don't know a better word, but more liberal or inclusive than it really is.
And I think that in girl choir, what we're trying to do is have everybody feel like that is a place for them. And I think places like girl choir, kind of outside of other things, maybe that's a small way that we can help make a difference.
Yes.
How long have each of you been in a musical career?
Okay. How long have I been in a musical career? I actually have been almost my whole life. I've been musical, and as soon as I had a career, it was musically oriented at all times, either at school or in a church or in different places, but teaching, directing, and also teaching private lessons, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've also spent my whole career teaching music, elementary music, choral music. I've taught high school twice. And then when I had the opportunity to be the founding director for girl choir, then I was still teaching, but then I was able to take very early retirement. And so I could just do girl choir, which was really wonderful.
And I am still teaching K-8 music along with doing girl choir. So, and being the co-conductor.
What do you think choir and music in general do for communities?
So much. One of the things that choir does is it brings people together in a beautiful, inclusive way where everyone makes music together and is joyful and doing something that they cannot do by themselves. You cannot make choral music by yourself. So you have to be in a group, and you also get to be with other people that also have the same passion that you do for making choral music. So, and it actually has been proven that physically singing actually makes people feel better. It physically, scientifically makes your body feel better. So that's another cool thing.
And then they also have research that talks about when choirs breathe together, it's an amazing uniting thing. It makes you really feel connected to those around you.
How do you think COVID affected choir?
The interesting thing is that I'm a teacher, and the way that I think COVID affected teaching music at a school and being in a school, and I've talked to many other teachers who are all different kinds of teachers, not just music teachers, but every kind of teacher. And they all think that COVID affected all ages of people from pre-K all the way through high school and beyond, even into college, everywhere, into adulthood, in the way that we lost our sense of empathy because we were not with people. We were not with people. We did not have to be careful about people around us because we were just by ourselves. Now, what I think that the difference was in choir, first of all, we were able to keep a community going in our choir.
In girl choir.
We were able to still bond every week, talk, be there, sing, whatever, try to do something online and keep moving forward. And it was really important to us. And so now when I'm looking at girl choir coming back together and being able to sing, I do still see the empathy for one another and the caring, kind situation that I still think is very difficult, a very difficult building project at school.
I think that our singers come and they still have that sense of, I'm part of girl choir. They welcome new people. I really love that. I think there's a very welcoming and that sense of being there for each other. And when you hear the singers talk about that, it seems to be a very important thing to them.
And when you hear the singers sing, you realize, my goodness, this is amazing. This is like nothing else because it's actually coming together to make something beautiful. And we can do it again. I mean, we should all be very thankful that we were able to do that again.
Do you think that Oregon is a good place to have a choir, and why?
Well, I mean, I felt really fortunate that the opportunity came up for me to do a community choir, a community girl choir. And I had taught choir in school. I think choirs are very important throughout, whether it's in school or in the community, because I think that they do build something special. I think the connections that happen through singing and being with other people, sharing that same love of singing, unites you in a way that other things don't. And I think that music, especially choral music, it goes really deep inside because of the words. And so I think it stays with you, not just the music part, but the words stay with you for a long, long, long time. And sharing that experience together binds you with the people around you.
And being in Oregon, I'm not sure that there's a difference between Oregon and any other state or place. I'm very thankful that it seems that Oregon is very open to this kind of cultural. There is a cultural culture here that cares about the arts. And so I think that's an important thing. There may be other states or other places where that isn't as important, but I do think that Portland and Oregon do value that.
When you sing in a choir or with another person, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel absolutely delightful. It makes me feel happy Like there's a happiness that just, even if you come into choir, like this happens to directors and singers, and you're in a place of grouchiness or whatever, cranky, whatever, or upset, maybe your day didn't go well or whatever, come into choir, start to sing, everything changes. And it really is a real thing. It's not like, oh, some sort of out there thing. It's real. It's an actual physical thing and an emotional thing that changes when you begin to make something together you can't do by yourself.
And getting, deep into the music, I think that does,
Yes.
It raises your spirits. It gives you a bigger view of the world. And I think singing all kinds of music really helps that too. Gives you a big view of the world.
Exactly. And also, I think it also enhances your self-esteem, knowing that you are smart enough to do this. Whether you're 4 or whether you're 18 or anywhere in between, when you come into choir and have to join into making music together in a very specific way and can do that, that's something that really enhances who you are.
Do you enjoy conducting together?
Yeah, we really do.
We love
absolutely
it.
do. Yeah, it's the best. And what I like too is from a probably even the singer and the director standpoint, it gives you a chance. The energy shifts when a different person is conducting, and I think that keeps the rehearsals really interesting. And rather than the same person I agree. I think that the energy shifts, and just even the techniques, and we don't, as you like, even last week, don't always agree, but we work it out. And I think that's a good model.
Well, we want that to be a model for all of our singers, to understand that you can be very strong, have strong opinions, be different, and still work together collaboratively to make something amazing. And that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And especially just working together on the same music, talking about it, working with it, doing it, and then working with all of you in choir. It's so exciting.
What are some of the challenges and reliefs about conducting with another person?
Well, one of the biggest reliefs was something we saw a month ago when, for the first time in 34 years, Roberta couldn't actually conduct the concert. Instead of not having a concert, we had someone else who could conduct the concert because we worked
the
together.
co-conductors.
And we know how to work together. So that was something. But also, there just is a relief in having another person to say, oh, really? Let's look at that. Right. I mean, and especially as we're hearing music being made, then you're like, when you're actually conducting and the other person is listening, they can be like, I'm hearing this and this. And then you can go back and forth and talk and really make even better music.
Yeah, it allows you to problem solve in the moment.
Yeah.
And fix things that you might have missed because you're thinking about, as conducting, you may be thinking about, what's the phrase line here? And somebody else is thinking, wait, they missed that, that part or whatever. So yeah, it's a win-win as far as I can see.
Agreed.
What happens when you disagree?
Discuss until we figure it out. I mean, there's always going to be the disagree. And that's kind of the cool thing, because two people looking at it, it sometimes gives a better picture. And you can say, you know what, I think you're right. I missed that. Or no, this is really the way it should be.
Well, you have to also think about, now, what did the composer write?
And so that's the biggest thing.
And when you're that came up because we're working with a composition that has never been performed. So we're still working through it and figuring it out. And even when Amy hears it, she may decide, I need to either go slower here, or I need a break. Composers come back to us all the time saying, this really isn't working. So I need, you know what I mean?
And it's kind of cool for them to be able to hear it be performed, because even when they write it, they don't hear it performed.
No.
So they get those chances. We've had that happen with many composers where they're like, you're right. That doesn't work like that. Let's see what we can do. Or I like what you did. Like, we've done things sometimes, and they've said, yeah, that was a good thing to do.
When you were growing up, what musical things did you do?
Well, I grew up and I was always encouraged. My parents both really loved music, and my dad and mother, they both are quite nice singers. And my mother had played saxophone in high school, and my aunt, my dad's sister, was a fabulous pianist. And so she was always the model that was held up. This is what we're shooting for when we take piano and so forth. And we did singing at church. I mean, We were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, youth group beforehand, and church choir in the midweek. And I did it. And I sang in school from the time, I was little and then into high school. And it was just part of who I was. And my mother said I woke up when I was younger. I would wake up singing and they would hear me singing upstairs. So I think it was always who I was.
Well, according to my mother, before I was even 5 months old, I was already singing. And I sang from the moment I can remember. That was a huge thing for me. I did not do any kind of musical studies when I sang a lot though, and my dad bought me a guitar. The fact is I moved a lot. My parents divorced when I was young. So like I said, I went from New Jersey to Delaware, from Delaware to Hawaii, and I played the flute in band when I was in 5th grade. I wanted to play the saxophone, but my band director told me that girls couldn't do that, which was weird since your mother is definitely older than me. So how come she got to? Anyway, and then I also played the guitar from the time I was young and sang. That was my big thing. I loved folk music and I sang a lot of that. And then when I moved to Portland, when I was 16, I came into a high school and wanted to sing there, but I also went into a church that I was not raised going to churches or anything. So when I got there, though, there was a church that really opened up their hearts to me, and I had met some friends that went there, and I sang there, and I was a soloist. And then when I went on to college, I started taking voice and studying music, and that was kind of the way, but it's always been my voice. I can play a little piano, not that much, but some, but it's been, and that's why I think it's so important to sing, because I see that is the one instrument we all have.
Right.
So,
and it's a great means of self-expression. You got, whether you're,
I mean, that was me my whole life. So still is.
How do you choose the songs singers will perform, especially with the different age groups in your choir?
Well, I think we've collected quite a big library now, but we also, for many years, went to music experience,
Choral
Music Experience Institute. So we would meet composers there. We would hear other people's music, and we'd go to national conferences and workshops.
And we worked all over the world with different composers and learned how to, it was a conducting institute, so got better and better at those skills. But really opened our eyes to a lot of different kinds of music. As you know, we love lots of different kinds of music. And when we choose music, one of the very first things, and we both came upon this separately, but believed it together, you really can't teach or give a piece of music to students to sing that you don't love.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way when I was teaching.
And
yeah, it
so
doesn't work.
We find pieces of music that really speak to us, and then we pass them on to you. And we like to have all different genres, as diverse as music as we could possibly have, just like we like to have that in our singers and everything else. We want that for you all to gain that knowledge of all the different ways to sing.
Right, and because of Deb teaching in school, she really knows, what appeals to the younger singers, and also we have other friends, colleagues. We do exchange ideas with our colleagues, and we go to national workshops and conventions. So there always are reading sessions where people bring new things. And of course, you can find so much online, but I think we go more with what our friends say, oh, my kids just love this, or, my singers found this challenging. And we go to festivals. That's the other thing. When we go to New Orleans, for example, there's a whole other set of repertoire, some of which we maybe didn't know. And so we were able to bring it back.
We're always open to everything and anything we're looking at, and we want.
How do you get your choir to all the different festivals and join concerts? Like, what are the logistics that go behind it?
Oh, there's a lot of planning that happens with those. And so there's a lot of planning, a lot of communication, but we try to make, for example, with Music in the Making, where we invite other choirs to join us. We always find someone, a composer that we really admire and enjoy, someone who feels authentic, like Dr. Andrea Ramsey, who was just here. She's very real. She's very authentic. She doesn't have, airs, and writes wonderful music. So we look at the quality of the music and the quality of the person.
And as far as taking girl choir somewhere, it's the same thing. we are more interested in the experience of the place
Mhm.
and the experience of the people that they will get to know and work with. And as far as we only travel every other year so that people have time to raise money for it, since it does cost money. And we do not require everyone to travel because it's not always possible for everyone for lots of different reasons. And so we don't want to ever make anyone feel like they can't be a part of Girl Choir just because of that reason, because that's certainly not a reason not to sing. And we are careful to be very organized from the very beginning with our logistics so that everyone has a very clear picture of what is necessary.
How do you help those who don't have a lot of money but still really want to sing?
We've been fortunate that we've had, like alum parents or, Girl Choir supporters who will help donate money towards scholarships. And we really don't turn anybody away now.
No. If someone needs help, we find help.
We find a way to give them help.
What are you most excited for in the future with the choir?
Oh, I'm excited about the 35th anniversary year, the whole year. And then on June 8th, we'll have the 35th anniversary concert. And when we did our 30th, we had alums come and did an alum brunch, and then everybody sang together, and the alums could come up and sing. They could sing on any song that they sang when they were in Girl Choir. So every song, there was a little bit of movement, people moving around. It was just wonderful. And of course, obviously, Carnegie Hall is a very exciting finale to the 35th season.
Yeah, and we also have this year, our wonderful concert coming up, and we're excited for that.
Well, and also our music in the making composer is Jim Papoulis, who wrote Give Us Hope and so many amazing, wonderful pieces. So we're excited about bringing him next spring.
And speaking of Carnegie Hall, many people have asked me when I've told them, or my mom has told them, that we're going to Carnegie, how did you land that?
Well, we were very honored to be selected guest conductors because
in other words, we didn't apply for that or anything. We got an email inviting both of us to become guest conductors there, which is pretty cool, which means that we were selected based on our reputation and what they knew about us.
And Girl Choir does have a national and an
international
reputation, and certainly we do. So I think it was
very cool. It was very exciting.
What would you tell somebody to do if they wanted to start singing but didn't know how and didn't have any prior experience?
Just come sing.
It's amazing how much you can learn by just doing it and being there and having the strength of the singers around you. And I mean, if matching pitch is kind of is the only real prerequisite, the desire to.
But sometimes people don't even understand that. And once they do, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And especially little ones.
Well,
little ones may not know how to do that yet. But once they start singing in a choir and hearing, then their brains just go click and it starts happening. So we just would encourage them to find a choir that fits who they are and join and start singing. And it doesn't take any kind of special skill at the very beginning.